Anna is from Food Futures Lancaster, and it's North Lancashire's award-winning sustainable food network. They are working to build a collaborative community of practitioners, food citizens, policymakers and researchers that work on food matters in the local area. The network's actions are shaped by the partnership and active members of the working groups. Citizens bring their ideas, knowledge and expertise to tackle food-related problems that impact all of us locally and nationally. The current working groups are Food and the Environment, Food Poverty Alliance, Food Economy and Procurement, Community Food Skills and Food and Health. Each year, the network organises the Northern Real Farming Conference and Lancaster Health Festival, and Food Futures is currently developing a 10-year local food strategy for sustainable food work in North Lancashire.
So hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm just going to also say that Melanie Fryer is here, and Melanie's been really involved and a core member of Food Futures. So I'll let Melanie introduce herself after I've gone through this to also add things in. So yes, as I've just been introduced, my name's Anna Clayton, and I am currently one of several coordinators of Food Futures, which is North Lancashire's Sustainable Food Place initiative. And essentially what we're trying to do here in North Lancashire is take a place-based approach to shifting our food system to being more resilient, sustainable and fair and healthy. And we do this by bringing people together across the food system. So by that, I mean from farmers through to food eaters, through to people who experience food poverty, through to school teachers, procurement officers, local food businesses. We're very much aiming to try and get really good representation across our food system so that we're joining up different perspectives and approaches to how we do food here in North Lancashire. So we aren't the only place taking this sort of approach. So we are one of a large network of places that fall under the Sustainable Food Places network. And that network is coordinated by the Soil Association, Food Matters and Sustain. And all the places that have picked up the Sustainable Food Place model look quite different in each place, but they have a similar underlying aim of bringing people together across the food system. And through bringing people together in our localities, we are trying to understand the issues that we are facing locally and to set up projects and work and strategy stuff and all sorts of other things that help us try and address some of those challenges. And then we also feed back our experience into the wider network to share learning and knowledge to support other places in taking a similar approach. And as a network, we also feed into national and regional and local consultation processes to try and shift that political system as well. So yeah, if you want to find out more about us or the wider Sustainable Food Place network and their model, you can go to one of these links and I can put that in the chat after. As a partnership, we seek to take a systems approach to food. And by that, I mean we're looking at how our food system interacts with other systems. So we're all here today concerned about the issue of climate change. And if we think about how the food system interacts with the issue of climate change, we can identify lots of very complex interactions from the food system, both actively contributing to the issue of climate change when farming is done badly, let's say, through to the food system being vulnerable to shocks and changes in weather patterns, etc., that we might experience from climate change. And so when we're looking at how we might address the issue of climate change through food, we're trying to take into account that bigger picture and the complexities of how this food system interacts with wider climate systems. But we also recognise that underlying the issue of climate change and some of the issues we experience within our food system, whether that be around food poverty, inequity within the food system, through to power dynamics around who makes the decisions of how food is grown and distributed. There are other social and political systems that we are going to have to shift if we are going to move towards a food system that is more resilient, healthy and fair. So we are trying to take that systemic approach locally whilst being connected to national and international networks in order to inform how we might approach some of these issues and to take into account broader voices, because ultimately the food we eat every day doesn't, a very small proportion of that probably for most people comes from the UK, and we're completely interconnected with a wider global food system. And if we're going to shift that, we need to do that sensitively and democratically and fairly. So underlying our approach, we have some core values that shape up how we run our meetings, our training and events. So we have a huge emphasis on developing a collaborative, inclusive and decentralized working culture. And so we offer a lot of skill sharing and training around some of the techniques and approaches that might facilitate that. And as a partnership model, we're inspired by sociocracy and some of that flat structure governance models. And I can talk a bit more about that if you're really interested, but I'll show you a diagram in a minute. And we recognise that to achieve our vision of this fair, resilient, sustainable and healthy food system, we're going to have to upskill and increase the capacity of people throughout the food system around much more than just food skills. So we're going to need to have excellent facilitators. We want to train up everyone as a leader in their own right. We're going to have to be teaching business planning skills, event organizing skills, you name it. Like we are very open to the needs that come forward from the network, and we aren't just focused on core skills, which we will inevitably be facilitating as well, around cooking, growing, how you cook from scratch, a community eating and that sort of thing. In how we communicate about the work we do, we have someone now called Kiki who is supporting us in thinking about how we talk about what's going on locally, and there is a lot. We seek to be lifestyle focused and aspirational, so telling stories of people from our place for people living in our place, to kind of show this the vision of what we are working towards already happening here in our locality, that it's not just this utopian dream, that there are pockets of what we're trying to achieve happening all around our district. And we seek to really create a platform to share those stories, to inspire more people to get involved. And talking of which, we really, like, I'm sure it's the same case in Settle and Yorkshire area. There are just so many passionate people who have a lot of expertise and knowledge around the sort of food system that we are dreaming of. And we really seek to harness that passion and support people in taking forward their ideas. And we very rarely say no to someone's idea when they come to our meetings or working groups. So this is the sort of the reality of what we look like, and this is what all of that systemic thinking has led to us creating. So I'll tell you a bit about the history of the group as well, because that might be of interest to you. So when we initially started, we came out of the Transition City Lancaster movement, which had a food group that was looking at how we'd shift our local food system to being zero carbon. And at that time, we had loads of excellent community-led food projects happening around the district, but it was all quite small in scale. And at that time, so this is around 2014, we were starting to talk about how we can upscale this sort of work. And when we were looking for different models of doing that and thinking through how we might approach that, we really felt that the Sustainable Food Places model had something in it and could be adapted to Lancaster and North Lancashire. And in those early days, we held a launch event very much like this, but in person, where we brought lots of people together from our area whilst having inspiring speakers from elsewhere, to kind of inspire what we could achieve through that model. And there were lots of great initiatives that came out of it. But essentially what we found is that by holding just one meeting that aimed to attract everyone from across the food system, you very quickly ended up with tensions coming up, people not having time to just keep attending a talking shop. And the timing of the meetings was really hard to put at a time that would attract all sorts of people, from farmers through to business owners, through to, we hope, with time, children and parents and all sorts. And so from that learning, we ended up creating this more decentralized and thematic structure. So now we have these working groups around, which are themed around various topics where we know there's a lot of interest locally, and things that have strategic priorities. So we have a food and environment working group. They are very much going to be taking forward some of the Lancaster District People's Jury recommendations around climate change. And in the past year, this group has sparked a gleaning network that some of those members were involved in helping shape up the Northern Real Farming Conference, which ran for the first time last year. And we are creating a range of composting resources. So we're looking to trial a community composting initiative in our area, whilst also offering guidance to allotments and gardens on how to compost better, and to link them up with local residents who maybe don't have a garden or yard where they can compost. We have a food and health working group, which is very sporadic and reactive in nature due to the sort of people that come to it. So representatives from our local hospital trust, our community commissioning group, through to the people that help organise the Lancaster Health Festival, which is called the Lost Art of Living. And this group really has picked up work that tends to fall through the cracks. So this last year, due to the pandemic, the hospital was really stretched, and so they didn't have the capacity to organise a health festival. So this group stepped in and helped plan essentially a week-long online festival that had some in-person elements to it as well. And that was used as a trial to test out ideas for the Northern Real Farming Conference as well. Other things that this group have done is create case studies of projects and work that is going on that pulls out the health and well-being benefits of that work. So we had a very beautiful video made for the Health Festival about Claver Hill Community Food Project and the health and well-being benefits that come from that. And in the future, this group will be looking at how we can get more involved in social prescribing people to community grown initiatives, as well as bringing around and protecting more green space in our area. Then we have the Lancaster District Food Poverty Alliance. So this has been such an amazing platform in the last year. So before the pandemic, we were seeing increased levels of food poverty and food bank usage. And since the pandemic, we've seen a 600% increase in the number of people relying on food banks. And in our area, we set up something called a food club as well. And so this alliance really has brought together people working around that sector. So before this, there was no joint up working at all. No one really understood the level of need in our area or who was at high risk. So this alliance has come together to bring everyone together to start actually collaborating and working together to ensure that we have a better safety net locally. So within there, we have people with lived experience of food poverty that's guiding the strategy. We have food bank coordinators, people who have helped set up the food club network. So a food club, for those that don't know, is a model that we feel is more empowering than a food bank. So you pay a membership fee of £1 a week, and that gains you access into, essentially it's a food buying group. And you can go into a place that normally would have a cafe running where you can sit and have a cup of tea and chat with people. And you can then also do your shopping and access a bag of goods. And as the food club model, because it does have a buying power, it's starting to buy from local farms as well. So we're looking at increasing access to healthy, fresh, local produce to people that wouldn't normally have access to that. Also within the Food Poverty Alliance, we have people who work for Citizens Advice, we have county and city councillors, and community workers, amongst other people, that are trying to essentially come up with a plan for our area that makes sure that if people end up in crisis, they can access support without feeling shame, and they can also be enabled to find their own route out of crisis pretty quickly and in a way that's empowering. And ultimately, the vision of that group is that they no longer need to exist. So we have that alliance there. We have a community food skills working group, which is so full of energy and amazing women predominantly. And at the moment, the big project that group is pulling together is something that's linked in around the Morecambe Bay curriculum. So we're looking to embed food and food growing and skills and ecology within the curriculum within our area, from early years through to further education institutions. And we're looking at how that can be embedded in the curriculum in a way that increases people's knowledge of our own area as well. And we're looking to pull together a pilot that works with 30 schools made up of primary, secondary and early years settings, to look at how we embed permaculture, food skills and aspects of rewilding into how schools operate. So we're looking to set that up this year to run over the next 5 years as a pilot that will then be rolled out to all the schools in our district. Then we have the food economy and procurement group, and that group's really looking at how we build a thriving local food economy and how we shift procurement within our local institutions like the hospitals, the prisons, the schools, care homes, to ensure that they're using their buying power to support the development of a thriving local food system. And projects that group are currently working on include a farm start scheme. So we've just launched the first year of that scheme, and it seeks to support new entrants into farming, and we're using it as a way to train people up in what we call agroecological food production. And not only will we be training up people that enter that program, but then we'll be looking to broker access to land around the district to achieve this vision of a ring of agroecological farms that are collaborating together to supply fresh, healthy and sustainable food to local institutions and people. And then we have various other people that don't have time to attend these meetings, but they come to these quarterly partnership meetings that are held as open spaces to allow people to really get that overview of everything that's going on in our area, to find out how they can best engage with the work that's going on, and to update people on some of the other work that's going on that might not fall within the remit of some of these working groups. And helping us keep a pulse on the health of the whole network is this group which we're calling the Heart Group, or the Big Picture Steering Group, and that's made up of people who have experience of movement building, that we have professional facilitators there offering us guidance on how we best build the health of this wider network. Oh, that was a lot. Sorry about that. And so at the moment, as you heard at the beginning, up till now, we've had action plans that have directed work. But since the climate emergency declaration and various other strategy work that's going on locally, we felt the need to pull together a long-term strategy to help us focus our energy better. And so we are well into the process of developing a 10-year food strategy for our area. And this will feed into Lancaster District Council's 2030 climate strategy, which hopes to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2030 and to bring the whole district along with them. And at the moment, there's no one else who has oversight of food in our area. So as a partnership, we got asked to pick up that role. And so since December, we've been running themed strategy mornings, we've run community conversations, and we've run focus groups with people that often get missed out of those other spaces. And we've been using these to really dream of the future that we want to create. And we have over 100 pages now of an amazing vision that is really exciting. And we're trying to boil that down to create this 10-year strategy, or what we're calling a guiding North Star for the area, which we'll be sharing in April for comment, and finalising in May with a series of events that help people taste and feel and see that vision here in Lancaster already. And there are still many ways to feed into that strategy work. We have an online visioning activity that you can still complete, and we're running a paint a picture of our future activity, which you also can have a go at, and I'll put the link to those in the chat after. And within our strategy, following the Lancaster District People's Jury on Climate Change, we committed from the start of hearing that process was running, to taking forward the recommendations, because so often these processes are really great, but then there's no one there to take forward the recommendations. And we've seen that process has been really empowering for the people that have taken part. And we have a number of the People's Jury now coming to our working groups wanting to take forward work. And some of that jury are farmers and smallholders and mothers and all sorts of things. So they're all really talented people as well. So we are
just wind up, Anna. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we're embedding a lot of that those recommendations within the strategy. So I won't talk about that then, or that. And I've mentioned the Farm Start project, the plot, the Northern Real Farming Conference is something that we initiated this year to start supporting networking amongst farmers in the north of England and Scotland, and supporting a shift towards more sustainable farming. And I'll leave that.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was absolutely amazing stuff. And we have lots, I'm sure, to borrow from yourselves in our local settling area.